One plague we came across in our research that up to several hundred people felt compelled to dance. One woman began dancing outside her house, not stopping for several days, and then more and more joined in. It totally mystified the doctors. People weren't stopping much to eat, drink, or sleep. Their feet were bruised and or bleeding, and even when they were too tired to continue, they kept going on until they collapsed. By some accounts, up to 15 people died per day of heart attacks, strokes, and exhaustion.
Have you ever heard of a dance so uncontrollable, so relentless, that people simply couldn't stop until they collapsed from sheer exhaustion or even died? Imagine an entire city where hundreds of people, seemingly gripped by an invisible force, begin to dance and just can't stop. It sounds like fiction, doesn't it? Yet this isn't a tale spun from imagination. It happened, and it left both witnesses and historians baffled. Join us in the journey to the year 1518 in Strasbourg, where the infamous dancing plague unfolded, a phenomenon that science, to this day, struggles to fully explain. It all began on a warm July morning. Frau Trophea, an ordinary woman, stepped out into the streets of Strasbourg. No one knows what compelled her, but suddenly she began to dance. And not just for a few moments, she danced all day. Her movements were strange and frantic, a mix of jerky twirls and contorted leaps, and her expression was blank, as if she was somewhere else entirely. By the second day, she was still dancing, her feet blistered and bleeding, her body utterly exhausted. But she wouldn't stop. She couldn't stop. And as people looked on in horror, they found themselves wondering, was she cursed? Possessed? Over the next few days, others joined her. They were all different: men, women, children. Some danced in silence, others cried out in pain. But they all shared one thing: they couldn't control their movements. Within a week, at least 34 people had joined the eerie dance, and the numbers kept growing. Historians estimate that by the end of the month, over 400 people were caught up in this strange affliction. Some reports say that up to 15 people a day were collapsing or even dying from the relentless movement. It was as if the city itself was under a spell, with hundreds of people trapped in this strange, exhausting trance. The city's leaders were desperate for a solution. They called in physicians, hoping for a rational explanation. The official diagnosis? Hot blood. According to medical theories of the time, this meant that the afflicted were overcome by an excess of blood that caused them to move uncontrollably. Doctors recommended a bizarre cure. They believed that encouraging the dancers to keep moving would eventually tire them out, releasing the fever, so they went to extreme lengths. Officials erected a stage in the town square, hired musicians, and invited more people to dance alongside the afflicted, hoping it would help them reach a cathartic release. But this treatment backfired spectacularly. Instead of calming the dancers, it fueled an even greater frenzy, sending more people into a trance-like state. The musicians played on, the dancers moved to the music, but the hysteria only grew. Theories have emerged over the centuries, but each has its own mysterious gaps. One possibility is mass hysteria, a psychological phenomenon where stress and fear create shared behaviors. In 1518, Strasbourg was a city in crisis. Recent famines had left the populace starving. Plagues swept through Europe, and fear of disease was constant. People lived in the shadow of death, and they believed in divine punishment. Perhaps these fears ignited a shared hysteria that manifested in the form of dance. But why dancing? Why not another expression of this fear? Some historians believe that ergot poisoning may have caused the frenzy. Ergot is a toxic mold that grows on damp rye and can produce a powerful hallucinogenic effect when consumed. When ingested, it can cause vivid hallucinations, muscle spasms, and a condition called convulsive ergotism, which could lead to uncontrollable bodily movements. If a large group of people accidentally ate contaminated bread, they might experience terrifying hallucinations and physical symptoms. Yet, ergot poisoning has effects that would likely have left some people paralyzed, not dancing, leaving doubts about this theory. Others argue that the plague had roots in superstition. The people of Strasbourg, deeply religious, may have believed they were cursed by St. Vitus, the patron saint believed to be capable of inflicting a dancing curse on those who incurred his wrath. According to local legend, dancing before his statue was a way to seek his forgiveness and protection from this fate. With fear of divine punishment looming large, the townspeople might have believed they were acting under supernatural influence, trapped in a dance that they believed could save their souls from a worse fate. Over time, the dancing plague's terrifying grip on Strasbourg began to loosen. Some accounts suggest that church leaders stepped in, gathering the afflicted and taking them to a mountain shrine dedicated to St. Vitus. There they prayed, rested, and gradually regained control. In the meantime, the city dismantled the stages, dismissed the musicians, and forbade public gatherings. Slowly, the mysterious epidemic subsided, and by September, the streets of Strasbourg had returned to normal. But the memory of those frantic, haunted weeks lived on, a reminder that even the strongest minds can be shaken by forces they don't fully understand. It's easy to dismiss the dancing plague as mere folklore or exaggeration, but the records from Strasbourg's city council are chillingly clear. The event was documented in painstaking detail, capturing the extent of the chaos, the city's failed attempts to end it, and the tragic toll it took on the people. Hundreds were affected, some for days, others for weeks, unable to escape the relentless force that drove them to their limits. Even when they wanted to stop, it was as though their bodies simply wouldn't let them. Modern scholars continue to study this bizarre event, drawing connections to similar cases in medieval Europe, where people suddenly engaged in uncontrollable dancing, singing, or laughter. But the mystery remains. Today, the dancing plague serves as a strange chapter in history, a glimpse into a world where science and superstition coexisted, where fear could manifest in physical form, and where the line between belief and reality blurred until the two were one and the same. What would you have done if you were there? Could you have resisted the strange urge, or would you have joined the dance, unable to escape its pull? Subscribe to Truth Revealed to stay intrigued and informed.